Good evening, nerds around the world. Welcome to a special Nerds United 1 podcast episode. I'm your host, Paul English, and today we are boldly going to the final frontier of Star Trek movies. We are going to be ranking the 13 official Star Trek films, as well as the much deeper than simple Star Trek parody film, Galaxy Quest. Joining me for this is a terrific panel of Star Trek fanboys and regulars here. It is Mike Gulick from Geek Salad. What's going on?
Well, live long and prosper.
Indeed. Hey, take a look who's back. This motherfucker ain't been here for a while. It's Chris Mello. What's going on, my friend?
What's going on, guys? This is ready to go to the final frontier. I've been anxious to be back.
Absolutely. Good to have you back. Okay, guys. So here's how we're gonna do. We're gonna give our rankings, and then we'll do a little discussion about why we have number 14 where it is and why number 1 is where it is. So let's jump right in. Chris, I'm going to start with you. Go from lowest to highest. Start going.
Number 14 ranked at number 14 is Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. And then why is it because it's just not
right away. You don't have to discuss it right away.
Okay.
You don't have to explain it right away. Just we'll explain it later.
Right.
Just give the list.
All right. Number 13, Star Trek Nemesis. Number 2. Let me see, not number 2. Number 12, Star Trek Insurrection. Number 11, Star Trek Generations. Number 10, Star Trek the Motion Picture. Number 9, Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. Number 8, Galaxy Quest. Number 7, Star Trek Into Darkness. Star Trek number 6, Star Trek Beyond is at number 6. Number 5 is Star Trek 4. Number 5 is Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. Number 4 is Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. Number 3 is Star Trek 2009. Number 2 is Star Trek First Contact. And number 1 is Star Trek II, The Wrath of God.
Okay. Mike, how's your list look?
Well, I didn't include Galaxy Quest.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
Yeah. Because I've yet to watch all of that movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, I get the same thing from my Geek Salad crew.
On that shit, man.
Yeah. Number 13, just for process of elimination, is Star Trek Insurrection, because I haven't seen that one either, because I've heard just stay away.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So number 12 is Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. Number 11 is Star Trek Motion Picture. Number 10 is Star Trek Nemesis. Number 9 is Star Trek Generations. Number 8 is Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock. Number 7 is Star Trek Into Darkness. Number 6 is Star Trek Beyond. Number 5 is Star Trek 6: The Undiscovered Country. Number 4 is Star Trek First Contact. Number 3 is the 2009 Star Trek reboot. Number 2 is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And number 1 is Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home.
All right. Well done. Okay. So here's my list right here. Excuse me. All right. So number 14, I got Star Trek Insurrection. Number 13 is Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. 12 is Star Trek: The Motion Picture. 11 is Star Trek Generations. Number 10 is Star Trek Into Darkness. 9 is Star Trek 3: The Search for Spock. At number 8, I got Star Trek Nemesis. At 7 is Star Trek 09. 6 is Star Trek 6: The Undiscovered Country. Number 5, I got Galaxy Quest. Number 4 is Star Trek Beyond. Number 3 is Star Trek First Contact. 2 is Star Trek 4: The Voyage Home. And number 1 is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Okay. So, Chris, you had Final Frontier as your worst. Why is your opinion, is that the worst Star Trek movie of them all?
Because it's a film that it has a premise that just doesn't really fly. It doesn't really work. It's like, Even Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry said this doesn't even work. The game part's going on the search to find God. Yeah. I think that's reaching a little bit too high. I mean,
yeah,
not having a lot of discernment, having a premise to find God. No. But what you have, yeah. How it was conceived, I mean, conceptually, visually, it's just like, I mean, you heard the original concept of this film. it looks like it could have been like it sounds pretty ambitious from a conceptual and visual story, from a visual point of view, but due to a shrinking budget and a writing skill strike and just a very shoddy script, it just didn't come together. You know, the only good thing about it is that the line, "What does God need with a starship?" When you have an actor like Lawrence Luckinbill, who plays Spock's half brother, who gives a very good performance, and you have a very effective and very fine musical score by Jerry Goldsmith, yeah, your film's not really a winner. Just not much that stands out. It's just like lots of impossibilities, just like bad acting. Yeah. This is 1A and a home run. Yeah, and plus you like William Shatner behind the camera.
Yeah, that one struck out and looked bad doing it. Okay, Mike, you had Final Frontier as your worst one, right? Because you haven't seen Insurrection.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, why Final Frontier is your worst?
I mean, a lot of what Chris said holds true for me as well. It's just the story doesn't really make sense. You're introduced to Cybok, who has never been mentioned anywhere in the series, anywhere in the movies. He just appears out of nowhere, and he's Spock's half brother. Okay, sure, whatever. Yeah. And he decides, and he has he can mind meld, but he can make people follow him like a cult leader, very David Koresh like. I don't know. I mean, and Uhura, who, I mean, all credit to Nichelle Nichols, she should not have been doing a fan dance.
Not at that age, no.
No.
Don't do that on the original series. Go ahead, but
yeah, absolutely. No, yeah. And it's just, yeah. I mean, it made no sense, and of course, Kirk had to be the one person that can resist Cybok and not follow it to his charms, because guess who's the director?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just. I mean, Shatner is many things, but a good director he is not, and this kind of showed. Yeah.
Screw on this one, Billy. Don't be sorry.
Okay. So, Insurrection. Mike, you have heard correctly on that. It is a terrible movie. Aside from the fact that it feels like a very long episode of the series, and the effects really aren't that good, I think I know. What makes this the worst is the main conflict of the story. I'll try to keep the spoilers to a minimum in case you decide to torture yourself. I don't recommend it. Essentially, the conflict of why Picard is standing against the Federation.
Oh, I know that kind of that storyline. So
okay, so under most circumstances, I would agree with Picard on this. Starfleet has no right to take these people off their planet. I mean, sure, they're not from there, but it's their home. They have no right to do it. However, if you look at what's going on in the larger context of the world, if you look at what's happening right now as the Enterprise is kind of off doing its own thing, Starfleet's in the middle of a war against the Dominion, and they're getting their asses handed to them. 1,500 people are dying every single week, and it was at this point very, very likely that Starfleet was going to lose this war. And if they did, 800 billion people would die. Why does Starfleet want to take these people off the planet? They want to use the rings to create a new breed of a new type of medicine, save hundreds of millions of lives. Look, dying for what you believe in, it's certainly an honorable thing. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
But you know what else I find honorable? Surviving. Surviving so that what you stand for, what you believe in, can also survive, to fight another day. So, and that's where That's why, like, I'm sorry, but I'm with the bad guys on this one. Considering even though it became a moot point because Starfleet won in DS at the end of DS9, by this point they were losing. They were going to lose the war at this point. So, kick them off the planet. Take the rings. It's going to conflict with what I believe, but you know what? I'll find a way to sleep at night. Get some warm milk or some booze. I don't care. I'll find a way to sleep. I want, Starfleet's not perfect, but it's the best we got, and I want to make sure it stays alive. So that's really what it is. That's why it's the worst, because Picard is wrong in this instance. He should not have interfered. Starfleet was right to do it in this instance. Not all the time. Again, that's not all the time, but in this one, given the circumstances, yeah, I stand with Starfleet on this. Picard should have been, kicked off and court-martialed or whatever. Okay. That's the worst. Let's get to the best. Chris, you had Wrath of Khan at number 1. So why is it up there? Why is it number 1?
Yeah, why? Because in this movie came 3 years after Star Trek debuted on movie screens with Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and the result is it's not only it's more than improved. It has a stronger story. It has the characterization is much more fleshed out. It goes back to the spirit of the original Star Trek. It goes back to that sense of camaraderie that we have, that the original series had. It goes back to that tone, that setting, that feeling. It's there, and and the action is pretty fine and well done. Of course, it was a masterstroke for them to bring Khan back into the fold. We all love. Oh man, it's just and Ricardo Montalban's performance is legendary. He just loves to chew the scenery, as you can see. This is those monologues that he has. Kirk, you. Yeah, great source for parody, I might add. But yeah, this is it has. But what makes it? I think the hook is this emotional core, and of course, that the character scenes. With Spock and Kirk, especially with that one scene where Spock gets command of the ship. And you can see why these characters. You can see just William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy pretty much give it their all. Of course, we have that memorable scene at the end. It's it has all the elements. It's pretty hard to top Wrath of Khan. It's one of the prime examples of Star Trek at its best.
It is pretty hard to top it. Mike would disagree with you on that. Although, to be fair, I think when it comes to debating what's the best Star Trek movie, I mean, 2 or 4, you can really flip flop either one of them. They're both equally good. I think a lot of people would say. I mean, for some people may have one a little higher than others, but I mean, like I said, you can really flip flop them. So, Mike, you have number 4. Why is it your favorite? Why do you think it's the best one?
I mean, I actually agree with a lot of and pretty much all of what Chris said about Wrath of Khan. The main reason it's not my number 1 is that I saw it for the first time probably when I was too young to see it for the first time, and those eels going into Chekhov and Terrell's ears just psychologically scared the piss out of me. And so it's, I mean, to this day, that scene is just it, and hearing them scream is the reason I go with the Voyage Home is because after all the heavy drama and all the heartbreak of seeing Spock die and then get resurrection, seeing the Enterprise get blown up, seeing Kirk's son die, to have the Voyage Home just be a light and fun and just very funny movie. It was a breath of fresh air. It was fantastic. It felt like an old one of the old episodes where it's not that there isn't a villain in it's not, but the villain isn't evil. It's just we don't understand them. We need to understand more. this probe is coming, is vaporizing the ocean. Why? Because because the whales aren't there, because the whales have been there for millions of years. The humans wiped them out. We have to fix this. And I mean, just the back and forth, the dialogue between all of the characters. Uhura's gotten the most in this movie than she had in any of the previous movies. Probably any of the previous movies combined, to be honest. And this was the crew at their best, the crew working off each other, having the back and forth dialogue. And it was not about beating the bad guy. It was about understanding the bad guy. It was about fixing the problem rather than killing the problem. And that's when I felt like the original series was best. And that's why I feel that this one is my number one. I love Wrath of Khan. Do not get me wrong. It is my number two. I love The Voyage Home so much.
When people talk about like the great trilogies of cinema, you hear the Dark Knight trilogy, you hear the original Star Wars trilogy, because we don't bring it up the Indiana Jones trilogy, so we don't bring up that fourth one. But I always argue, and I think it rightfully so, that when you realize that Star Trek 2, 3, and 4 are one continuous story, and I believe it deserves to be on that pantheon of like the great trilogies of cinema, because like Chris said, 2 was such a phenomenal start to it. 4 was such a breath of fresh air and a great way to finish it, especially the ending where they get a new ship and they're off doing their mission again. So even 3, which is the weak point of it, I argue is the best of the odd numbered film. People say the odd numbered ones is worse, and yeah, they are. But you know what? 3 was pretty close. It wasn't great, but it was good.
I don't disagree.
All right, so I had Wrath of Khan at number 1 as well, and here's why. I'm not a cinema geek like you guys are. I don't have the money or the time to see 70 movies a year, but I have seen my fair share. I have seen some good movies, I've seen some great movies, and I've seen some shitty movies. But there are only 2 films I've seen that I can honestly say are a legitimate 10 out of 10. Nearly flawless in every way, with either no flaws whatsoever or flaws that are so minor you can't help but overlook them. One of them is, you can probably make a safe bet, is Casablanca. The other is Star Trek 2. And I mean that. This film is about as close to perfect as a film can get, with an incredible story, flawless character growth, stunning action sequences that hold up to this day. I mean, this film's closing in on, 40 years now? Been out for almost 40 years. Still holds up. It's incredible. So yeah, it's got the intensity, it's got the action, and it's also got the right amount of humor sprinkled in. So I mean, yeah, this film is about as close to perfect as you can get. So that and Casablanca, the only 2 films I can honestly say 10 out of 10. There's like nothing wrong with them at all.
Also, can I just add that the scores for both 2 and 4 are 2 of my favorite scores in all of Star Trek.
Oh, the music scores, yes.
Yeah,
dude, the theme for Wrath of Khan, that is legendary.
Mm-hmm.
You were a master.
Yes.
All right. All right, guys. So that's going to wrap up our countdown, but we're not done just yet. It's been widely announced that it was speculated that I think it started with the untimely death of Anton Yelchin. But in recent months, we've learned that Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth really don't have much of an interest in going back for another Star Trek film. So I think at this point, it might be safe to say that as far as like the original, as far as like this current cast goes, this might be the end of the Kelvin timeline movies, at least as far as the current cast goes. But that's not to say they can't continue doing it. I think they can if they, fast forward the clock and maybe we get a Kelvin timeline film set in the era of the next generation. So let's go to the 24th century. And what we're going to do to wrap up the show, we are going to fan cast on Star Trek Next Generation films set in the Kelvin timeline. So, Chris, I don't think it sounds like you didn't do one. So
I had a few choices. I mean, few considerations, mostly for the role of Picard. I'm not sure if I could share them.
If you can take a couple, yeah.
Maybe Mark Strong could play him,
Maybe.
or maybe even Ewan McGregor. Yeah.
I thought about that too. I don't know, a bit of a stretch on that. But I think a lot of these picks are going to be stretches considering how iconic these roles are. I freely admit I had to cheat on my list with one character because I just couldn't think of anyone else to do it. So, with that said, Mike, I'll come to you because I'm curious. Obviously, I gave you the characters, so who would you pick to fill those shoes?
All right. With Picard, I wanted another Shakespearean trained actor, so I went with Ralph Fiennes. For Riker, I wanted something kind of younger, so I actually went from Supernatural star Jared Padalecki. For Data, this was my hardest one. I decided to think a little bit outside the box. I figure out of everyone, this one kind of had a little bit more leeway because it's an android, so it could be made either male or female. So I went with Danielle Panabaker.
Really?
From The Flash.
Okay.
I think she could kind of pull off the science jargon, and I think she could pull off playing an android.
I mean, if you've seen her as Caitlin Snow, but Killer Frost, no way. There's no way she could. If you've seen Killer Frost, no way she could pull it off.
I think she's a good enough actress. But for Worf, I went with Winston Duke. For Geordi, I actually dipped into the Netflix Marvel shows and went with Eka Darville.
Oh, Power Ranger alum. Nice.
Yeah. For Tasha Yar, I went with Kate Mara. Beverly Crusher, she was a little bit of a tough one, but I went with Carrie Ann Moss.
Okay.
For Troy, I went with Gina Rodriguez.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Leslie, I went with Finn Wolfhard.
From Stranger
Things. I know that name.
From Stranger Things and from It.
Okay.
You'll flow too.
For Q, I went with David Tennant.
That is an awesome choice.
Uh-huh.
Doctor Who and Scrooge McDuck from the DuckTales.
and
the Purple Man.
Yeah, the Purple Man. Yeah. And I did take one more from the...
And Barty Crouch Jr. from Harry Potter and the Goblet.
Yes. And I did take one more that was not on the list that you sent me because I thought it was a good one. Guinan.
Ooh, yes.
I went with Rosario Dawson.
That would I could see that actually.
Yeah. Choices either Lupita Nyong'o, Viola Davis, or Danai Gurira.
That's not bad.
All right, so here's my list, and this kind of speaks to just how uninformed I am about young actors coming in. So for Picard, obviously, I needed someone with some authority. Who could command respect, and I went with Paul Blackthorne to play the role. He was Captain Lance on Arrow.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting.
Obviously, for Riker, I wanted someone younger, very young. I wanted someone a little cocky, had a charm to him, but you could see growing up, someone more matured. So I actually went with Grant Gustin for that role. I think he could pull off a very young Riker, but see him mature into an older Riker. I think that might work.
Wow.
I was torn between him or Stephen Amell, but I think I got to go with Grant.
I thought you were going to go with Stephen Amell.
I was tempted. I was this close, but he might be a little too old to play a young Riker. All right. For Worf, obviously, I needed someone with a physical presence, and I went with David Ramsey.
Okay.
For Geordi, he was my favorite part of this particular film, and I think he could pull this off. I went with R.J. Kyler for the role of Geordi. He has the technical know-how. I think he could pull it off.
Interesting.
All right. For Data, this is I really struggled with this one. This one was hard as hell, but and I'm gonna butcher his name, so I apologize, man. I went with Ian DeCasticker from Agents of Shield, who plays Fitz.
Oh yeah.
You know, I've watched him for so long. You know, especially in the early season, I'm watching. You know, he could work. Like again, this one was very tough, but I think he could pull it off. All right. So for Tasha, again, I wanted someone with a physical presence, but still had some. I went with Adrian Palicki,
Okay.
from ACL now on the Orville. I just the way she kicked butt as Hummingbird or Mockingbird on Agents of Shield. Like, okay, she can pull this off.
Have you watched the Orville?
Not yet. I haven't gotten to it yet.
Terrible show.
Says you.
No, terrible.
Another discussion for another time. I haven't seen it. We'll discuss it after I see it. Okay. For Beverly Crusher, again, this one was tough. I knew I needed someone. I wanted someone a little older than most of them. I wanted someone with some presence to her. And this is really hard, but in the end, I chose Haley Atwell. I think she's got that redheaded look. I think she could pull. She has that, charm. That she has that, compassion to her. I think she could work for that role.
Damn, if I had thought of her, I would have chosen her over Carrie Ann Moss.
What probably would have chosen? What's his name? Bryce Dallas.
Yeah, I said Bryce Dallas Howard. She's like in everything nowadays. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for Deanna Troy, I wanted someone with some exoticness to her, but someone you could trust. So I went with Naomi Scott. I think she could pull it off perfectly. All right, Wesley. This is going to be like straight out of the box, considering how up and coming he is. I don't know if he'd take this role, but I went with Tom Holland. After seeing him in Homecoming, I think he could play. He could pull off Wesley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, and then for Q, I'm sorry. You know what, Mike? That's a good pick, David Tennant. I never thought of him, but I'm sorry. There's no one who can pull this off. I had to bring back John Delancey. I mean, he is Q. I'm sorry. No one can do this but him.
You realize he is 70 years old.
You know what? It doesn't matter. He'd find a way. Because he's just made for that role.
I'd love to see David Tennant say, yeah, I tried this form. I tried this form. He turned into John Delancey. And I tried this form. He turns into David Tennant.
That would be funny, actually.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So that's my list right there. And that is going to do it. So, that's our ranking for the Star Trek films. And hopefully they continue. I mean, Discovery's been doing fantastic this season, far superior to the first season, in my opinion. But really, we need Star Trek on the big screen every once in a while to keep audiences really interested. So, hopefully whether it's back in the Prime timeline or they continue the Kelvin timeline, hopefully we'll get a new movie soon. So, guys, that was our show. Mike, it was a pleasure having you here. I know you did this topic for Geek Salad. I'm sorry I couldn't join, but I'm glad you were able to join us for this one.
Hey, I was glad to be here. And yeah, it's actually the next episode of Geek Salad that will be posted. So I'm editing that one right now.
All right. Well, glad you were able to make the time for this one. And Chris, been a long time, but we're glad to have you back.
It's good to be back, guys. This is like I've been waiting to do this again. This is like waiting to be coming back.
All right, guys. So we will see you. We'll see you on Saturday for our next topic, and we'll hope to see you there. So have a good one. Bye-bye.